The universe was a quiet place for the 4 crew members of the Guangzhou's Pride. Their ship was a simple box of gray metal, a cargo hauler modified for the Grand Games. Outside the viewport, a brilliant white space station, shaped like a flower, spun slowly. Ships from a dozen species, sleek and shimmering, drifted around it. The human ship looked like a brick someone had accidentally left among jewels. Captain Min-Su sat in the pilot's chair. He was a man who moved with a slow, careful calm. His hands rested lightly on the controls, which were covered in safety covers and warning labels. "Final approach to the staging area," he said, his voice soft. "Power limiters are all active, running at 28%. Behind him, Yuna sighed. She was their tactical officer. Her job was to understand the rules of the games and plan their moves. Her screen showed streams of data about their competitors. The Lumin, who were made of living crystal and thought light, was a form of speech, and the Crick, small bird-like creatures who flew their ships in perfect, silent flocks. Her screen also showed the long list of restrictions on their own ship. "The dampeners on our inertial compensators are at maximum," she said, a hint of frustration in her tone. "A sharp turn might make the coffee spill, but that's about it." In the engine room, June heard her over the com. He laughed, a short, sharp sound. He was looking at the heart of the Guangzhou's Pride, a fusion reactor that could power a small city. Right now, it hummed gently, like a sleeping animal. Thick cables, usually pulsing with blue energy, were dim. "It's like riding a speeder bike with the parking brake on," he called out. "The viral ships out there? I've seen the scans. They're running hot, no limiters." "It's not fair." "It's not about fair, June," said Hana, the 4th crew member. She was in the small science bay, her face lit by the soft glow of a display showing the biology of their competitors. "It's about not causing a diplomatic incident. Remember what happened with the Florians, when our Marine just smiled with all his teeth? They thought it was a threat display and hid for a week. This was the reality for humanity in the Galactic Concord. Earth was classified as a death world, a planet with gravity considered high, weather considered violent, and wildlife considered actively malicious. Humans were seen as monsters from a nightmare world, impossibly strong, resistant to pain, and able to eat things that would dissolve other species. Centuries ago, the Concord had welcomed them with fear. So humans made a choice. To be peaceful, they had to be less. They had to play softly. The Grand Games were the galaxy's great celebration of strategy and technology. It was not supposed to be war. It was a complex sport, a series of challenges where teams captured floating data keys, solved energy puzzles, or navigated complex nebula fields. Winning brought prestige and trade rights. Humans participated, but they did so with one arm tied behind their back. The comms crackled. "Human vessel Guangzhou's Pride, this is Concord Control. You are cleared for docking Bay 7. Please confirm your regulatory compliance." Min-Su keyed the mic. "Confirmed, Control. All safety and cultural sensitivity protocols are active. Output limited, sensory dampening fields active, tactical AI in non-threatening mode. Thank you, Guangzhou's Pride. Welcome to the games." The ship settled into its berth with a soft thud. Yuna pulled up the first-round matchup. "We're against the Lumin in 3 hours. Scenario: asteroid tag in the Olvarn debris field." Hannah brought up the Lumin profile. "Remember, they communicate with pulsed light. Our exterior running lights, even our laser coms, could be seen as aggressive shouting. We must use only the low-frequency radio band they find acceptable. And their ships are fragile. A grazing impact that would just scratch our paint could shatter their hull integrity." June grumbled from the engine room. "So we can't talk right, we can't move fast, and we have to be afraid of breathing on them. Great. Focus, Minsu said, his calm voice cutting through. We play by the rules. Our rules. We show them that humanity can be graceful. We can be gentle. The match began. The arena was a field of tumbling gray rocks. The goal was to be the first to retrieve a glowing data core from the center. The Lumin ship was beautiful, a dart of faceted crystal that caught the distant starlight, sending rainbows across the asteroids. The Guangzhou's pride moved like a heavy person trying to tiptoe. Minsu's piloting was masterful, but it was a masterful restraint. He calculated paths with wide, safe margins. The ship's thrusters fired at a fraction of their power, producing slow, predictable movements. Yuna watched the Lumin. They're dancing around the core. They're not going for it. They're creating a light show pattern. I think it's a ritual, a show of respect for the challenge. We will wait, Minsu said. They waited. The Lumin finished their dance and gently collected the core. The Guangzhou's pride had not moved from its starting position. A Concord announcer's voice, smooth and translated, came over the channel. A elegant and respectful victory for the Lumin Collective. The human team demonstrates admirable patience. Back in their bay, June kicked a tool chest. Patience. They think we're slow. They think we're stupid. We are being polite, Hana said, though she didn't sound happy about it. We avoided causing them stress. That is a win for diplomacy. Diplomacy feels like losing, Yuna muttered, staring at the stats. Their power output graphs were a flat, low line. The Lumin's graphs showed elegant spikes and flows. They don't see the limiters, June. They just see a big, slow, simple ship. They see the monster trying very hard to be cute. It's condescending. Their next match was against the Crick. The scenario was a nebula navigation race. The violet gas clouds scrambled sensors. The Crick ships, a flock of 12 small vessels, moved as one mind, weaving through the gas with impossible coordination. The human ship had to rely on its dampened, basic sensors. Their tactical AI, hobbled by its non-threatening programming, offered cautious, simple suggestions. Recommended course: proceed at 1/4 speed to avoid potential unseen obstacles. Meanwhile, the Crick flock split and reformed, finding the perfect currents in the nebula. Communicating with bursts of subspace chirps, humans couldn't hope to match. Minsu pushed the ship a little. He nudged the throttle past the recommended limit, trusting his own instincts over the AI. The Guangzhou's pride lumbered forward. A bear trying to run through deep water. It came in second. It was a good showing, technically. The Concord commentary was positive. The humans show improving coordination. A strong finish for a species with their physical limitations. Yuna turned off the feed. Our physical limitations, she repeated, her voice flat. They think the limiters are our natural state. They think this is our best. Minsu looked at his crew. He saw June's angry energy, Hana's resigned focus on her biology screens, Yuna's tactical mind itching to be set free. He felt the same thing, a deep, quiet hum in his own bones. The ship around them was a cage. The games were a playpen, and they were the adults, pretending to be children so as not to scare the babies. Tomorrow is a new bracket, Minsu said. We follow the protocols. We show them our discipline. He believed in the mission. He believed peace was worth the quiet humiliation. But as he looked at the data from the Viral's latest match, a match where their opponent had been disabled in seconds with a targeted electromagnetic pulse, a cold feeling settled in his stomach. The galaxy had rules, but he was starting to wonder how long everyone would keep playing by them. For now, the Guangzhou's pride was the model of restraint, a Deathworlder on its best behavior, slowly drifting through a game it was not allowed to truly play. The mood on the Guangzhou's Pride was somber. Their respectable, careful losses were piling up. They were not disgraced, but they were utterly forgettable. The other species saw them as the lumbering, polite giants from the dangerous world, interesting in theory, but not a serious competitive force. Yuna spent most of her time reviewing not their own matches, but the matches of the new species dominating the tournament brackets. The Varil. They were an amphibious race. Tall and slender, with smooth gray skin and large, dark eyes that held no warmth. Their ships were not beautiful like the Lumins, nor clever like the Cricks. They were sharp, angular, and efficient. They won, and they won quickly. "I don't like their patterns," Yuna said, her face illuminated by the tactical holodisplay in the small common room. Minsu, Hana, and June gathered around. Floating in the blue light were replay schematics of Virel victories. Watch against the Florians in the crystal lattice maze. The playback showed the Florian ship, a living pod of plant matter, trying to navigate a shifting maze of light. The viral razor ship did not try to solve the maze. It simply fired precise, modulated energy beams at key structural nodes of the maze itself, causing it to collapse in a way that trapped the Florian vessel without physically touching it. The Florians surrendered, confused and rattled. Against the Kasari mining dredge, Yuna continued, pulling up another file. The Kasari were bulky, rock-like beings. Their ship was slow, but heavily armored. The viral ship darted around it, not attacking the armor, but targeting its external sensor clusters and communication arrays with a rapid series of low-power pulses. Blinded and deafened, the Kasari ship drifted helplessly until a timer ran out. A technical victory for the viral. Its smart tactics, June shrugged, though his expression was uneasy. They find weaknesses and exploit them. It's more than that, Hana said softly. She crossed her arms, her biologist's mind seeing a different pattern. They are not just exploiting technical weaknesses. They are exploiting biological and psychological ones. They research their opponent's physiology, their culture of conflict, their pain thresholds. They win by causing the maximum amount of distress short of physical harm. It is a form of cruelty wrapped in rules lawyering. Minsu watched the replays, his usual calm hardening into something more solid. The Concord allows this? The rules state you cannot directly target life signs with lethal intent. Yuna explained, pulling up the massive legal document. It says nothing about sensory overload, psychological warfare, or targeting systems that your opponent's biology is uniquely dependent on. The Varel are playing a different game. They are not here for prestige. They are testing weapons and tactics. And the gains are their proving ground. The crew's next match was uneventful. They lost to a graceful Lumin collective in a data stream synchronization challenge. Their limited systems were simply too slow to match the Lumin's light-speed communication. It was a clean, quiet loss. As they left their ship in the docking bay, they passed a group of Lumin. The crystalline beings chimed softly, their light patterns conveying a polite, "Thank you for the challenge." Hana responded with a pre-programmed, gentle pulse from her datapad. The honor was ours. It was the scripted, careful dance they always performed. Later, they were in a communal observation lounge. A vast room with transparent walls looking out into the tournament space. Different species mingled, drinking synthesized nutrients and chatting. The humans kept to themselves at a small table. A major quarter-final match was about to start. The Viral against the defending champions. A Lumin collective known as the Shard of Morning, the arena was set for Solar Harvest, a complex game of capturing energy fragments from a simulated solar flare. It was a beautiful, dynamic event, perfect for the Lumin's light-based abilities. The match began. The Lumin ship, a magnificent prismatic vessel, moved into the blossoming energy field, beginning to weave and collect the flaring particles with innate grace. The viral ship held back, observing. Then it moved. It did not go for the energy fragments. Instead, it accelerated on a direct intercept course with the Lumin ship. Standard protocol. A feint, perhaps, but the viral did not fire standard disabler pulses. Its forward emitter glowed a deep, ugly violet. It fired a sustained, modulated beam directly at the Lumin ship's main hull. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. The Lumin ship did not explode. It did not crack. Instead, its beautiful internal lights, the very essence of the beings inside, flared in a frantic, stuttering panic. The ship began to drift, its movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. On the external speakers, the Concord translators struggled, then emitted a raw, discordant sound of translation of the Lumin's collective cry. It was not a sound of pain as humans understood it. It was a sound of shattering, of perfect harmony forced into screaming dissonance. Hannah shot to her feet, her hand over her mouth. They're hitting them with a resonant frequency, tuned their crystalline neural lattice. It's like screaming directly into their minds. On the view screen, a medical schematic appeared. The viral beam was perfectly calibrated to interfere with the Lumin's photonic consciousness. It was causing catastrophic sensory and cognitive feedback. The Lumin were not dying, but they were trapped in an endless looping agony. Completely conscious, but unable to think or act, the viral ship fired again, this time at the Lumin's life support regulators, locking them into a malfunctioning state that bathed the crew in stressful, chaotic light patterns. It was a meticulously crafted hell. The match referee, a robotic Concord arbiter, finally signaled the end. The viral had won by total opponent incapacitation. Medical drones sped towards the paralyzed Lumin ship. The observation lounge was utterly silent. The Crick had huddled together, their feathers puffed out. The Florians had retracted into their pod-like bodies. The comfortable hum of interspecies conversation was gone, replaced by a cold, fearful quiet. June was gripping the edge of their table, his knuckles white. They tortured them, he whispered, his voice thick with anger. They tortured them for a win in a game. Yuna's face was pale, her tactical mind seeing the horrifying brilliance of it. They found a loophole and drove a starship through it. No lethal force, just maximum allowable suffering. It's a message. Minsu did not speak. He watched as the recovery drones clamped onto the stricken Lumin vessel. He watched the viral ship, sleek and unmarked, glide victoriously back to its docking bay. There was no celebration from its crew. There was only cold efficiency. A Concord official, a flustered insectoid being, was on the main display, giving a statement. The viral tactics, while severe, were found to be within the technical boundaries of the rules. The being was a non-lethal disabler. The targeting of life support is an unfortunate but legal strategy. The Games Committee will review the statutes, but the result stands. Hannah sat back down, shaking. They have studied us all, she said, her voice barely audible. They know exactly how far they can go. They know the Lumin's weakness to specific light harmonics. They know the Kessere's reliance on seismic sensors. What? She looked at her crewmates, her eyes wide with a new, chilling fear. What do they know about us? Yuna met Minsu's gaze. The frustration from their careful, polite losses was gone, burned away by a colder, sharper feeling. They know we're Deathworlders, she said. They know we're strong. They'll have a plan for that. They'll have a way to make us hurt, too. Maybe not physically, but they'll find a way. Their next match is against the winners of our bracket. She pulled up the tournament tree on her datapad. A cold certainty settled over them. If they won their next simple match, their opponents would be the viral. The Guangzhou's pride sat in its docking bay, No longer just a slow ship full of polite monsters. It felt like a target. The careful game of gentle diplomacy was over. A new, crueler game had begun, and the rules were written by someone who did not believe in fairness at all. The quiet of the ship was no longer peaceful. It was the quiet before a storm. The silence in the Guangzhou's pride after the Lumine match was heavy. It was not the quiet of rest. It was the silence of a grave. They had won their own next match, a simple data retrieval task, but no one celebrated. The victory only meant one thing. Their next opponents were the Vi Real. Hana was in the science bay, her screens showing everything the Concord database had on viral biology and psychology. It was not much. They were private, coldly logical. They are amphibious, originating from a high-pressure oceanic world, she narrated, her voice flat. Their primary senses are sonar and electrical field detection. Their communal structure is based on complex bioelectric signaling. A jamming signal in the right frequency could disrupt their coordination. But our comms are limited to approved bands. We can't transmit anything they would find uncomfortable. June was down in the engine room. He wasn't doing maintenance. He was staring at the reactor housing, at the thick power conduits that led to the ship's main weapon, a mining laser that had never been fired in anger, only used to clear minor debris. Its output was capped at a level the Concorde deemed non-threatening. A light show. Next to it were the physical lockouts on the fusion reactor, big red switches labeled Safety Protocol Concorde Mandate. Yuna had the full schematic of a viral razor ship on her tactical display. She traced its lines. They're fast, agile. Their weapons are low power but precise. They are built to disable systems and overload senses. They will target our life support, our internal dampeners. They'll try to make the ship itself a torture box for us. They'll have studied human stress responses. They'll know what frequencies of sound cause anxiety, what light patterns induce migraines. Minsu sat in the pilot's chair, motionless. He was looking at the tournament bracket on his screen. Their ship's name, Guangzhou's Pride, was a small, plain text next to the elegant, ominous script of the viral combatant designation. He thought about the Lumine ship, drifting, its crew trapped in a waking nightmare. He thought about the unlimited strategy clause. He thought about the word fair. He keyed the ship's internal comm. Crew meeting, now. They gathered in the common area, the small room that felt even smaller under the weight of what was coming. June had grease on his hands. Yuna's eyes were tired from staring at screens. Hana hugged herself, as if cold. Minsu did not ask for opinions. His voice was the same calm as always, but it now carried the weight of stone. We have seen what the viral do. They will do it to us. They will find a way to hurt us within their interpretation of the rules. The Concorde will not stop them. So we lose? June said, the anger barely held back. We let them turn our ship into a funhouse of horrors? For what? To prove we're still polite? We do not lose, Minsu said. Yuna looked up. The limiters, Captain. The protocols. We cannot match their precision with our systems shackled. We cannot outrun them with our engines choked. We would be a slow, blind giant, waiting for them to find our nerves and start pulling. Minsu nodded slowly. Then we removed the limiters. The words hung in the air. They were not just words. They were the breaking of a centuries-old promise. They were the throwing away of the careful, gentle mask. June's face broke into a fierce, hard smile. Finally, Hannah looked worried. The cultural shock. The diplomatic fallout. The viral are causing diplomatic fallout with a sonic screwdriver, Yuna said sharply. The Concorde is doing nothing. They are hiding behind their rules. I do not care about shocking the Lumine anymore. I care about not ending up like them. She looked at Minsu. But the moment we power up, the Concord will know. They'll disqualify us before the match even starts. Min Su had thought of this. We do not power up now. We prepare. We bypass the software limiters, but leave the physical switches in place. We reroute control circuits. We make it so that with one command, the shackles come off. Not before. He looked at each of them. This is not a vote. This is my order. But I need to know you can do it. June, the reactor. Can you give me 100%? Not 28. 100. June's eyes gleamed. I've had the bypass routes mapped for 2 years, Captain. Just in case. I can give you 110. For about 10 minutes before we melt the containment housing. But it will be a beautiful 10 minutes. Yuna, the tactical AI, its non-threatening protocols. The sensor dampeners. Yuna was already nodding, her mind racing ahead. I can strip them out. The AI will become direct. It will suggest optimal solutions, not polite ones. It will feel like a different entity. The sensors will show us everything. Full electromagnetic spectrum, gravitational ripples, quantum noise. It will be overwhelming. Hana, you will manage the data flow. Filter it for what we need. And you will find me a weakness. Not just a ship weakness. A viral weakness. Something their biology, their pride, cannot handle. Hana took a deep breath, the scientist's curiosity pushing past the fear. Their sonar, their entire perception is based on a clean, predictable echo. Chaos and random noise is their blindness. And their pride. They are logical. They expect predictable responses. They have never faced something truly adaptive. Min Su gave a single, slow nod. That is the plan. We do not just overpower them. We break their pattern. We show them chaos. We show them a problem they cannot logically solve. He paused. We will likely be expelled from the Concord for this. Our lives here will be over. Better than being a trophy in their sick game, June muttered. Then we prepare, Min Su said. The next 20 hours were a silent, intense flurry. There were no dramatic speeches. Each member buried themselves in the machinery of their own prison. Carefully picking the locks, June was in the reactor room. A panel open, his hands moving with precise, loving care over the machinery he had nursed for so long. He pulled out thick, green-colored safety fuses, replacing them with pristine, high-capacity conduits from their emergency spares. He rerouted power lines, creating a hidden secondary grid that bypassed the main limiter choke points. The reactor began to hum differently, a deeper, more potent sound that vibrated in his teeth. Yuna sat before her console, code streaming down her screen. She was deleting lines of programming, centuries of built-in pacifism. Targeting protocol Delta. Avoid sensitive areas deleted. Maneuver constraint. Consider opponent comfort greater than deleted. She was not writing new, aggressive code. She was simply removing the walls, letting the powerful tactical AI underneath see the battlefield with cold, clear eyes for the first time. The screen flickered, and a new, simpler prompt appeared. Tactical assessment mode. Unrestricted. Hana drowned herself in data. She studied the scan logs from every viral match, looking for the tiny flickers, the barely there reactions. She noted how their ships moved in perfectly synchronized patterns, how they always took a moment to scan and analyze before acting. Predictable. She began crafting a signal program. A burst of pure random electromagnetic noise across every frequency she could access. It was not a weapon. It was static. It was the sound of a universe that did not make sense. Min Su pre-flighted the ship in a way he never had before. He tested the response of the thrusters at the new theoretical maximums. He felt the ship strain against its own dampeners, like a great beast on a chain. He practiced maneuvers on his simulator that would have ripped any other species ship apart, and that would have been forbidden by his own ship's computers just a day. Before dot, the call came from Concord Control. Guangzhou's Pride, you are scheduled for your quarter-final match in 1 hour. Please proceed to Arena Lock 3. Opponent, Viral Combatant Vessel Silent Talon. Min-Su acknowledged. He looked at his crew on the monitor. Are we ready? June's face was smudged with coolant, his smile wild. The beast is awake, Captain. Yuna cracked her knuckles, her eyes sharp. The AI is hungry. Hannah took a steadying breath. I have the noise ready. Min-Su did not smile. His face was a calm mask over a foundation of steel. Then let us go. Engage the bypasses. On my mark, release the safety locks. He heard the clicks and thunks over the comm as June threw the physical switches. He saw Yuna's console bloom to life with a torrent of raw, unfiltered data. He felt it through his seat, a deep, powerful tremor as the Guangzhou's Pride's heart began to beat its true, furious rhythm for the first time. The ship, which had always moved with polite slowness, now felt alive with pent-up, terrifying potential. It was no longer a cargo hauler playing a game. It was a Deathworlder, and it had just opened its eyes. Set course for Arena Lock 3, Min-Su said, his hand firm on the controls that now held real power. We have an appointment with unfairness. The Guangzhou's Pride slid into Arena Lock 3. To the external sensors of the Concorde and the watching billions, it looked the same, a gray, blocky ship, quiet and unassuming. Inside, it was a different universe. The air hummed with raw power. The lights were brighter, sharper. Every screen blazed with more information than any human could normally process. Min-Su's hands rested on the controls. They felt alive, sensitive. The slightest touch now translated into immediate, powerful response from the thrusters. The ship was no longer a lumbering beast. It was an extension of his will, tense and ready. Viral Vessel Silent Talon is in position, Yuna said, her voice crisp. Her tactical display was a storm of data. She saw the viral ship not as a single icon, but as a cluster of heat signatures, power flows, and projected weapon arcs. Her AI, now unfettered, painted a cold red line of optimal attack vectors across her screen. They are scanning us. Standard deep-frequency sonar pulse. They are looking for our fear. Give them nothing, Min-Su said. Hold all power at ready. Do not spook them. On the bridge of the Silent Talon, the viral commander observed the human ship. Its bioelectric sensors detected the standard low-power output. The sonar return showed a slow, simple shape. The humans were following their predictable pattern, restraint. The commander signaled its weapon officer. The plan was set. They would use a concentrated infrasonic pulse, tuned to disrupt the human vestibular system, the inner ear. It would cause extreme vertigo, nausea, and disorientation. A harmless but utterly disabling tactic. They would then disable life support and flood the ship with strobes of chaotic light, inducing migraines and psychological stress. A clean, efficient victory. The holographic countdown in the center of the arena flashed to 0. The viral ship moved. It was fast, a silver blur. It closed the distance, its forward emitter glowing with the specific tuned frequency. It fired. The beam struck the Guangzhou's Pride shields. But these were not the simple, low-power deflectors from before. June had rerouted reactor plasma directly into the shield grid. The beam did not penetrate. It did not even cause a ripple. It dissipated against a wall of energy so dense it shimmered with a visible, angry blue light. On the Silent Talon, the weapon officer stared at its readout. Shield density, unprecedented. Our pulse had no effect. The commander felt the first flicker of something unfamiliar. Doubt. Adjust. Target their engine ports. Overload their cooling systems. The viral ship banked, trying to flank the human vessel. On the Guangzhou's Pride, Minsu saw the move before it was half complete. His enhanced sensors showed the enemy's thruster heat building, predicting the path. He didn't wait. Yuna, fire pattern Delta. June, give me a 3-second burst on the port thrusters. Full power. Aye, Captain. The Guangzhou's Pride did not turn. It pivoted. The port side thrusters erupted with a violence it would have turned any other crew into paste. The inertial dampeners, now running at full Deathworld tolerance, groaned but held. The big ship spun on its axis faster than a vessel 10 times smaller, presenting its broadside to the swooping viral. Yuna fired. But she did not fire the mining laser. She fired the ship's Come array, repurposed and boosted by June's reactor. It released Hana's noise, a blistering burst of pure, random electromagnetic static across every frequency, from radio to microwave dot to the viral, whose world was built on precise sonic and electric signals. It was like being struck blind and deaf by a wall of screaming madness. Their sensitive sensors overloaded. Their sonar returns became a chaotic screech. Their internal bioelectric communication flickered with interference. For a second, the silent Talon wavered, its perfect formation breaking. Hana, did it work? Minsu asked, his eyes glued to the trajectory plot. Biometric scan shows elevated stress signatures. Hana called out, her voice tinged with triumph. Their synchronization is broken. They are confused. The viral commander recovered, its logical mind fighting the chaos. The humans were not following the script. It ordered a full barrage of disabling pulses, targeting the human ship's sensor arrays. Minsu saw the attack coming. Evasive pattern Theta. He didn't input a course. He simply flew. He threw the ship into a series of maneuvers that defied standard physics. A rapid vertical climb followed by a sudden, crushing dive, using the main engine like a brake. The Gi forces pressed down on the crew, but they grunted and bore it. Their bodies trained for high G, combat simulations the galaxy never imagined. The viral's precise pulses cut through empty space where the human ship should have been. They could not track it. The Guangzhou's Pride moved not like a ship, but like a living thing, reacting not to pre-programmed tactics, but to instantaneous, instinctual reads of the battlefield. June, the thermal trick, Minsu said. June, sweating in the engine room, threw a switch. He dumped waste plasma from the overcharged reactor directly into the ship's thermal management system and vented it into space in a sudden, massive cloud. It wasn't a weapon. It was a smokescreen of billowing, superheated fog that scrambled infrared and thermal targeting. The viral ship, relying on its now chaotic sensors, flew straight into the edge of the cloud. Alarms blared as their external heat readings spiked wildly. Now, Yuna, their main thruster assembly. A surgical cut. Yuna nodded. The targeting AI had already calculated the shot, factoring in the cloud's diffusion, the viral's likely panic maneuver. The mining laser, its power limiter removed, charged with a deep, resonant whine. It fired. A beam of coherent light, thick and bright as a tree trunk, lanced through the thermal cloud. It was not set to kill. It was set to cut. It struck the rear quarter of the silent Talon, not at the engines, but at the delicate lattice of maneuvering thrusters and sensor pods that surrounded them. There was no explosion. Just a flash of molten metal and a sudden, violent loss of control for the viral ship. It began to spin, its fine directional control destroyed. It was not dead in the water, but it was crippled, turning in a helpless, slow circle dot inside the viral ship. Chaos of a different kind reigned. The logical, predictable universe had ended. Their sensors lied. Their weapons were useless. Their perfect, analytical tactics were meaningless against an opponent that changed the rules of physics and psychology every second. The commander tried to issue orders, but the disorienting spin and the residual EMI noise in its own skull made clear thought impossible. It was not in pain. It was in something worse. Utter tactical irrelevance. On the Guangzhou's Pride, Minsu leveled the ship out. Hold fire. Do not approach. He opened a channel on the standard Concorde frequency. His voice was calm, flat. Silent Talon, this is Guangzhou's Pride. You have lost maneuvering control. Your primary weapon systems are ineffective. Your sensor integrity is compromised. Do you surrender? There was a long silence from the viral ship. The entire galactic audience held its breath. They had just witnessed not a battle of strength, but a demolition of principle. The humans had not outgunned the viral. They had outthought them in a way that was fundamentally terrifying. They had used heat, noise, movement, and psychology as weapons. They had turned the viral's own love of precision against them, drowning it in chaos. Finally, a strained, translated voice came over the comm. We surrender. The words were simple, but in that moment, they changed everything. The arena was silent. The Concorde arbiters did not immediately signal the end. They were, for the first time, utterly stunned. Min Su leaned back in his chair. The rush of power faded, leaving a cool, clear certainty. Power down weapons. Re-engage safety limiters. Set them to 50%. He looked at his crew. Yuna was breathing hard, a fierce light in her eyes. June was laughing quietly in the engine room. Hana looked at her screens, where the viral biosigns showed shock and disorientation, but no physical harm. They had won. But more importantly, they had shown the method. They had not been monsters. They had been something the galaxy had no name for. Problem solvers from a world that had never offered easy solutions. The viral had played to cause maximum distress. The humans had played to win, and in doing so, had redefined what winning could look like. The Guangzhou's Pride. Once a joke, now hung in space, quiet and menacing. A simple gray ship that had just taught the galaxy a very simple, very old lesson. Never start a game with a Deathworlder unless you are ready for them to play. The silence in the arena was absolute. The Guangzhou's Pride hung beside the crippled viral ship like a quiet predator. The only movement was the slow, helpless spin of the silent Talon. The battle was over, but the real event was just beginning. Inside the human ship, the crew was quiet. The high-energy hum of unleashed power was gone, replaced by the familiar, softer sounds. The limiters were back online, but Minsu had left them at 50%, a compromise between the monster and the mask. It was a message in itself. The con channel from Concorde Control buzzed, a sound filled with static and hesitation. Guangzhou's Pride, this is Chief Arbiter Clicks. You are ordered to hold position. A tribunal delegation is coming to your docking bay. Immediately. They don't sound happy, June said, wiping sweat from his forehead with a greasy rag. He was already running diagnostics on the stressed reactor, his hands steady. Good, Yuna said. She was reviewing the tactical logs, a cold satisfaction in her eyes. Let them be unhappy. Let them be confused. Let them be afraid. Hana was monitoring the galactic news feeds. Her screen was a mosaic of different species media. The images of the Guangzhou's Pride executing its impossible maneuvers were on a loop. Analysts were stuttering. They are calling it the unshackling, she reported. The Lumin networks are showing it with no commentary, just the visual replay. The Crick channels are a chaos of overlapping chirps. The viral feed is dark, offline. Minsu piloted the ship back to its assigned bay with a calm he did not entirely feel. The reaction would define humanity's future. Expulsion, war, or something else. When the airlock cycled open, the delegation was waiting. Chief Arbiter Klix was a tall, willowy being from a low-gravity world, its 4 eyes blinking in sequence. With it were 2 others, a Lumin representative, its crystalline form pulsing with slow, thoughtful light, and a Concord Legalist, a robotic entity covered in blinking lights. Klix spoke first, its voice translated into precise, careful tones. Captain Min-Su, your vessel's performance constituted a gross violation of the Cultural Harmony Accords. The power outputs, the sensor manipulations, the aggressive maneuvering, all were beyond agreed-upon limits. Min-Su stood at attention, his crew behind him. Arbiter Klix, the viral ship silent. Talon was configured to target our biological weaknesses with non-lethal but torturous methods. This was within the rules. We chose to defend ourselves with a different interpretation of the same rules. The legalist robot word. Your interpretation involved bypassing hardwired safety systems. This is not strategy. This is fraud. It is adaptation, Yuna said, stepping forward slightly. Her voice was clear. The rules state we cannot use lethal force. We did not. They state we must use approved technology. We used our ship's existing systems nearly at their designed capacity. The viral used their technology to its designed capacity to cause pain. We used ours to prevent it. The difference is one of intent, not legality. The Lumin representative chimed softly. The translator rendered its speech as a series of gentle questions. You moved. In ways that break physical law. You withstood forces that would shatter any other ship. How? Hannah answered. We did not break physical laws. We are built for them. Our ship's dampeners are rated for Earth gravity, for atmospheric re-entry turbulence, for conditions your cultures would classify as natural disasters. Our bodies can tolerate more G-force or sensory input. We have always lowered ourselves to meet you. Today, we simply stood up. The silence in the bay was heavy. Klix's 4 eyes fixed on Min-Su. You have shown the galaxy the face you promised to hide. You have confirmed every fear about Deathworlders. The panic is already spreading. Some factions are calling for your species' quarantine. Min-Su nodded slowly. We understand. But ask yourself, Arbiter, who did we harm? Klix blinked. What? The viral ship, Min-Su continued. Is its hull breached? Are its life signs fading? No. We destroyed its ability to fight. We did not touch its crew. We caused them confusion, tactical dismay. Compare that to the agonizing stasis they inflicted on the Lumin. He gestured to the crystalline being. Which action, truly, was more violent? The Lumin's light pulsed, a pattern of deep, sorrowful blue mixed with a flicker of something new consideration. Min-Su took a small step forward. For centuries, we played the gentle giant. We let you win. We let you think us slow and simple, because peace was worth the insult. But the viral do not want peace. They want conquest through fear. They play a game of cruelty. Today, we showed there is a counter to cruelty. It is not more cruelty. It is overwhelming competence. It is making their cleverness look like child's play. We did not fight a monster. We solved a problem. That is what Deathworlders do. We solve survival problems every day. The robot legalist buzzed again, but with less certainty. Your actions will force a re-evaluation of all treaties. Your classified status as a limited threat species is now void. Good, Min-Su said, and the simple word hung in the air. Let it be void. Do not classify us as a limited threat. Classify us as you will. But know this. Our restraint was a gift. Today, we showed you the price of making us remove it. The viral learned that price. Let the galaxy learn from their lesson. The meeting ended without resolution. The delegation left, confused and unsettled. But the story did not end in that bay. It spread. It was not a story of human brutality, as some feared. It was a story of shocking, elegant efficiency. It was the story of the slow, polite giant who, when pushed, revealed it had been holding back not just strength, but thought. In the days that followed, the legend crystallized. It was named the day Deathworlders stopped playing fair. It was not about a battle. It was about a perspective shift. On the Guangzhou's pride, life changed. They were not expelled. Instead, they were inundated with requests. Not for fights, but for consultations. The Lumine asked if human engineers could help harden their sensory systems. The Crick inquired about adaptive flight patterns. Even some virile factions, those opposed to the government's path, sent cryptic messages about chaos theory applications. Minsu, Yuna, June, and Hana became simple names attached to an immense idea. They were not celebrated as warriors, but as the crew that broke an illusion. Years later, a young Lumin historian would ask Hana, who had become an ambassador, what the true meaning of that day was. Hana thought of the feeling in the ship, the roar of the reactor, the flood of data, the perfect, terrifying unity of their actions. She smiled a very human smile. It was the day we reminded everyone, she said, that fair is a very fragile idea. It depends on everyone agreeing on the limits of the possible. We come from a world that does not believe in limits. Our fairness was a choice to live within yours. When you welcomed those who had no concept of fairness at all, you forced us to make a different choice. We chose to show you what happens when survival is the only rule left. The legend every species remembers is not one of terror. It is one of a sobering lesson. In the grand negotiation of the cosmos, humanity's politeness was revealed not as an inherent trait, but as a calculated strategy. And the most powerful thing in the universe is not the unstoppable force. It is the force that has always been holding back, and whose patience, as the galaxy learned, is not infinite. The Guangzhou's pride eventually went back to being a cargo hauler, but its transponder code was known to every ship in civilized space. And when it entered a system, traffic gave it a wider berth, not out of fear of collision, but out of a new, deep, and enduring respect. For they remembered the day the humans stopped playing fair, and they knew the game had never been the same since.